Welcome to Linkfitty's Deep Dive. This time, we're taking you on a journey into the world of AI agents and agentic frameworks and agentic workflows. Are you intrigued by the idea of AI that cannot just answer your questions, but can actually take action and solve complex problems? We're going to be covering commercial offerings from the big tech companies and the exciting world of open source solutions. It really feels like a major shift is underway. It's like we're on the verge of a true agentic era in computing where AI is not just processing information, but actually going out and doing things in the real world and achieving goals. Before we start, we would very much appreciate it if you like and subscribe to our channel.
So let's start with the basics. What is an AI agent and how is that different from an agentic workflow?
An AI agent is the entity itself, the intelligent system that makes decisions and takes actions. You can think of it like a highly capable virtual assistant. Now, the agentic workflow is the process that the agent follows. So, it's the sequence of steps and decisions and actions that it takes to accomplish a goal.
Okay, so it's like the agent is the chef and the agentic workflow is the recipe.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. A simple chatbot would be like following a very basic recipe, just it's giving, pre-programmed answers. But a true AI agent with a sophisticated agentic workflow could take a user's request, break it down into smaller tasks, search for information, and even learn and adapt its approach over time.
So these agentic workflows are what make AI truly dynamic and powerful. But how do these AI agents actually get built? What's the role of deep learning frameworks like TensorFlow and PyTorch?
Deep learning frameworks are crucial because they provide the foundational tools for building and training the AI models, especially the large language models or LLMs, that are the brains behind a lot of these agents. So think of them as the engine that powers the car.
Okay, so TensorFlow and PyTorch are like building the engine. They don't build the whole car. What builds the rest of the car? The part that actually drives.
That's where agentic frameworks come in. They operate at a higher level, using those trained models to orchestrate the agent's decisions and actions and its interactions with the world. So they provide the structure, the tools, and the guidance to transform a powerful AI model into a functional agentic system. Commercial offerings.
All right, so let's dive into some real-world examples. What are some of the leading commercial players in the agentic framework space?
Well, Microsoft has been making some big moves with Autogen and the Azure AI Agent service. Autogen is really interesting because it's designed for building multi-agent systems.
Multi-agent systems, what does that even mean?
Imagine a team of specialized AI agents all working together, each with its own role. So you could have a commander agent that's delegating tasks, a writer agent that's generating content, and a safeguard agent that's reviewing everything for accuracy and safety.
So it's like having a whole team of AI experts working on your problem.
That's right. And Microsoft's Azure AI Agent service takes this to the cloud. It's a platform where you can build and debug and deploy these multi-agent systems. And the real power here for businesses is that they can connect these agents to their own data and processes, which opens up a ton of possibilities for automation.
It's like having a customized AI workforce right at your fingertips. What about Google? What are they doing in the agentic AI space?
Well, Google is really betting big on this agentic era with its Gemini family of models. These models are being designed from the ground up for agentic use cases. So, think real-world context, understanding multi-step planning, seamless tool integration.
Yeah, I've heard about their Project Astro, which is this prototype agent that can understand real-world objects and fetch information about them. Sounds like it could change how we interact with the world around us.
Exactly. It's a glimpse into the future of multimodal agents. And for businesses, Google is pushing Vertex AI agents, which is a platform for building conversational agents that can tap into company data and streamline workflows. And the interesting thing about Vertex AI is its no-code or low-code approach, which makes it accessible even to people without a ton of programming experience.
Wow, it seems like Google is making agentic AI development much more approachable. Now, we can't talk about AI without mentioning Amazon. What's their take on agentic frameworks?
So, Amazon's approach is centered around Bedrock, which is their managed service for foundation models. And they've recently introduced Bedrock agents, which leverage those foundation models, particularly LLMs, to perform complex tasks that involve multiple steps and external tools.
So Bedrock provides the tools, and the Bedrock agents use those tools to get things done.
Exactly. Think of a customer service scenario. A Bedrock agent could analyze a customer's question, search a company database for relevant information, and then generate a personalized response. It's all about orchestrating the different components needed to solve a problem.
So, it's taking care of all the behind-the-scenes work so we don't have to, and I understand that Bedrock has recently added support for multi-agent collaboration as well.
That's right. They've introduced this concept of specialized sub-agents working together under a supervisor agent to tackle even more complex problems. It's a powerful concept, and since it's tightly integrated with the AWS ecosystem, it's a natural fit for businesses that are already using Amazon's cloud services.
All right, so we've covered the big players, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. But what about some of the smaller companies? Are there any exciting developments coming from places like Anthropic or OpenAI?
Yeah, there are definitely some fascinating things happening outside of the big tech companies. Anthropic, for example, is known for its Claude models, which are known for their safety and large context windows, meaning they can handle very long conversations.
Yeah, Claude is great at keeping track of what's been said, but how does that translate to agentic capabilities?
Well, Anthropic is actively adding features to Claude that make it more agentic. So they've added tool use, which is essentially function calling, allowing Claude to use external tools. And they've also introduced interactive code execution. So Claude can actually write and run code to manipulate data and interact with systems.
So Claude can write its own code. Now, that's getting into some serious sci-fi territory.
It is pretty remarkable. They've even demonstrated something called computer use, where Claude can actually control a computer interface, like browsing the web and gathering information completely autonomously.
That sounds incredibly powerful, but also potentially risky. What if it goes off and does something it's not supposed to?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. But Anthropic is very focused on safety and reliability. They're developing these agentic capabilities with a lot of care and oversight, making sure that Claude acts responsibly.
Okay, that's reassuring. And what about OpenAI? They're the ones behind ChatGPT, right?
That's right. And their GPT models are often the core brain behind many AI agents being developed today. OpenAI has been steadily adding features that enhance GPT's agentic capabilities. So they introduced function calling to their API, which allows developers to give GPT agents access to tools like web search or email, or lots more.
So it's like giving ChatGPT superpowers. What can it do with these new abilities?
Well, one interesting example is there are ChatGPT plugins. These are pre-built tools that GPT-4 can invoke autonomously. So they have a code interpreter, which is now called Advanced Data Analysis, that lets ChatGPT write and run Python code to analyze data. And they have a browsing plugin that lets it access the web to gather information.
So it sounds like they're giving GPT-4 the tools it needs to not just understand information, but to act on it in the real world.
Exactly. And their new GPTs, which are custom versions of ChatGPT that anyone can create, seem like a step towards more personalized agentic AI assistants that can cater to specific needs.
So OpenAI is opening up the possibilities for everyone to have their own custom AI agent. But with all this talk of autonomous AI, I can't help but wonder about safety. How do we make sure these agents don't do things we don't want them to do?
That's a crucial question. And to their credit, OpenAI is very conscious of the potential risks they have. Strict usage policies and safety guidelines in place to prevent uncontrolled or harmful use of their technology. They're particularly cautious about actions that could have real-world consequences. Open source solutions.
Well, it's good to know that they're taking safety seriously. We've talked a lot about these commercial agentic frameworks, which are all very impressive, but I know there's also a whole world of open source solutions out there. What are some of the key players in that space?
That's where things get even more interesting. The open source community is a hotbed of innovation in agentic AI.
Okay, I'm excited to hear about this. Where should we start?
Well, one of the most popular open source frameworks out there is LangChain. It's known for its ease of use and its focus on chaining prompts and managing memory and creating agents.
So, LangChain makes it easier for developers to build and experiment with agentic workflows.
Exactly. It provides a very modular and flexible way to connect different components like LULMs and tools and data sources.
Sounds pretty powerful. What kind of agents are people building with LangChain?
People are using it for all sorts of things like creating chatbots that can access and process information from the web or building agents that can automate tasks like data entry or scheduling. Even experimenting with agents that can generate creative content like stories or poems.
So LangChain is like a Swiss Army knife for agent AI development. What about other open source frameworks?
Another one that's gotten a lot of attention is AutoGPT. It's the project that really popularized this concept of self-prompting agents.
Self-prompting. That sounds interesting. What does that mean?
It means that the agent can essentially think for itself. You give it a goal, and it figures out what subtasks it needs to perform. It generates its own prompts to guide its actions, and even evaluates its own progress. It's like giving the agent a mission and letting it run with it.
Wow, that sounds like a big step towards true AI autonomy, right? But what are some of the limitations of AutoGPT?
Well, it's still early days for AutoGen. I mean, it can sometimes get stuck in loops, or it doesn't always make the most logical decisions, but the potential for automation is huge.
Okay, so it's not quite ready to take over the world, but it's definitely a fascinating development. What other open source frameworks should we know about?
There's Pydantic AI, which focuses on creating type-safe agents.
Type-safe. I'm not familiar with that term.
It means that the agent's inputs and outputs are strictly defined and validated, which helps ensure that it behaves predictably and reliably. This is particularly important for production-level applications where errors can have serious consequences.
So, pedantic AI is for people who like their AI to be well-behaved and predictable.
Exactly. It's great for tasks like data extraction and transformation where accuracy and consistency are crucial.
Okay, that makes sense. Any other open source gems we should explore?
One more I want to mention is Crew AI. It's a framework that's inspired by human organizations where you can create crews of AI agents with specialized roles.
AI crews, I like the sound of that.
Yeah. So, the idea is that complex tasks can be broken down into smaller, more manageable pieces, and each agent in the crew can specialize in a particular area.
So it's like having a team of AI specialists all working together.
Exactly. And because each agent is focused on a specific task, they can be more efficient and effective.
That sounds incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
So, we've got LangChain for ease of use and flexibility, AutoGPT for exploring self-prompting agents, PyKI for reliability and type safety, and QI for multi-agent collaboration. That's a pretty impressive lineup of open source frameworks.
It is, and the open source community is constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible. It's a really exciting space to watch. Choosing the right framework
Okay, so we've covered both the commercial and the open source sides of agentic frameworks. But how do we choose the right framework for a specific task or project? What are some of the key factors to consider?
That's a great question. There are a number of factors to consider when choosing an agentic framework. One is the architecture. Some frameworks like Autogen or Crew AI or Bedrock agents are designed for multi-agent systems where multiple AIs can communicate and collaborate. Others like LangChain or earlier versions of OpenAI's function calling focused on single-agent setups.
So if I need a team of AI specialists, I would go for multi-agent, but for a simpler task, a single agent might be enough. Makes sense. What else should we be thinking about?
Another key factor is the level of control you want over the agent's behavior. Some frameworks are very model-centric, meaning they rely heavily on the LLM's intelligence to figure out how to solve a problem. OpenAI's approach, with its focus on GPT's reasoning and tool use capabilities, is a good example of this.
So in those cases, you just give the LM a goal, and you trust it to come up with a plan.
Exactly. But other frameworks like Pydantic AI impose more structure. They use techniques like type checking and predefined workflows to ensure that the agent behaves in a predictable and reliable way.
So it's like choosing between giving your AI agent a lot of freedom or keeping it on a tight leash.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. And then there's the issue of memory. Some frameworks have built in support for long-term state management, meaning the agent can remember information and context across multiple interactions.
That sounds crucial. I mean, if an agent forgets everything after each conversation, it wouldn't be very helpful.
Exactly. And some frameworks do a better job of this than others. And then, of course, we have the all-important considerations of observability and debugging. Some frameworks offer robust tools for tracing and monitoring what the agent is doing. This can be incredibly helpful for understanding its decision-making process and identifying any issues that might arise.
So it's like having an AI debugger to help you understand why your agent is making certain choices. That sounds incredibly useful, especially as these agents become more complex. Use cases, absolutely. Now, let's move on to the exciting part, use cases. Where are these agentic AI frameworks being applied in the real world? What kinds of problems are they solving?
This is what I've been waiting for. Give me some real-world examples of how this is all playing out. Well, on the commercial side, we see Azure AI agents being used for things like business process automation, Google's agents for information retrieval and workflow integration, and AWS Bedrock agents for managing cloud operations.
So, for businesses, these agents are becoming essential tools for streamlining operations and boosting efficiency.
Absolutely. And in the open source world, LangChain is being used extensively for research and prototyping Autogen with complex task automation, Pydantic AI for data extraction and transformation, and Crew AI for simulating multi-agent interactions.
So it seems like there's an agentic framework for almost every imaginable task or problem. It's amazing to see how quickly this field is evolving, but I'm curious, what about the cost? I know open source frameworks are free to use, but there must be other costs involved, right?
Yeah, that's an important consideration. With open source frameworks, you might still have costs associated with using the underlying AI models. Many of these frameworks rely on APIs to access powerful LLMs like GPT-4. And those API calls can get expensive, especially if you're using them at scale.
So even if the framework itself is free, you might still end up paying for the AI brains behind it.
Exactly. And if you choose to host the models yourself, you'll have to factor in the cost of the infrastructure, like powerful servers and GPUs.
Okay, that makes sense. What about commercial platforms? What kinds of costs are involved there?
Commercial platforms typically involve a combination of platform fees, usage-based charges, and the cost of the underlying AI models. So you might have to pay a subscription fee for access to the platform, and then you'll likely be charged based on how much you use the platform's resources, like API calls, storage, compute time.
So it sounds like there's a trade-off between the convenience and support of a commercial platform and the cost savings and flexibility of open source.
That's a good way to put it. And factors like the scale of your deployment, the specific AI model you're using, your need for support, and service-level agreements will all play a role in your decision. Installation process.
Right, so I've made all these decisions and I'm ready to get started. What's the installation process like for these frameworks? Is it easy to get up and running?
It really depends on whether you're going with an open source framework or a commercial cloud service. Open source tools typically involve installing a library, using a package manager like pip, and then getting API keys for the models or services you'll be using.
So it's pretty similar to installing any other software library on my computer.
Exactly. But with cloud services, it's more about setting up an account, navigating a web interface, and using SDKs or APIs to interact with the platform. You're essentially configuring things in the cloud rather than installing software locally.
Okay, so it sounds like there are options for both those who like to get their hands dirty with code and those who prefer a more user-friendly cloud experience.
Exactly. And the good news is that these frameworks are constantly evolving and becoming more user-friendly. We're seeing things like one-click deployment and integrated development environments popping up, which make it easier than ever to get started with agentic AI regardless of your technical expertise. Future trends and developments.
That's great to hear. It sounds like the barrier to entry is getting lower all the time. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's take a step back and think about the big picture. What are some of the trends and developments we can expect to see in the future of agentic AI? Where is this all heading?
That's a fascinating question, and one that's difficult to answer definitively, but there are some really exciting trends emerging. One of the most interesting is this convergence of ideas between commercial and open source frameworks. Concepts that were once cutting edge in open source projects are being integrated into enterprise platforms and vice versa. This cross-pollination is accelerating innovation at a rapid pace.
So the lines are blurring between the different approaches.
Exactly. And we're seeing a growing focus on memory and learning and self-improvement in AI agents. We're moving beyond agents that simply execute tasks. We're starting to see agents that can learn from their experiences, adapt to new situations, and even improve their own performance over time.
So the AI agents are becoming more well-intelligent. Is that even the right word to use?
It's a complex question, but in a way, yes, they're becoming more capable of independent thought and action. And we're also seeing an increasing emphasis on multimodal agents. Agents that can seamlessly integrate and process information from multiple sources like text, images, audio, and even video.
So, imagine an AI agent that can watch a video, read a document, and then have a conversation with you about it all while understanding the nuances of each medium. That's incredible.
It is. But as these agents become more powerful and capable, safety and alignment become even more critical. We can expect to see even stronger guardrails being built into these frameworks. Things like sandboxing actions, requiring human confirmation for sensitive decisions, implementing robust monitoring and governance policies will become even more important.
And by the way, we want to make sure our AI agents are working for us, not against us. But this all sounds incredibly complex. Will building and managing these advanced agents always require specialized expertise, or will it eventually become something that anyone can do?
That's a great question, and it leads us to one of the most exciting possibilities in the field of agentic AI. This push toward making it more accessible to non-programmers. Imagine being able to describe what you want your AI agent to do in plain English, and then having the system automatically generate the necessary code or configurations. So like a no-code approach to building AI agents.
Exactly. That's the direction things are heading. And this democratization of access to agentic AI has the potential to revolutionize the way we work, learn, and interact with the world around us. This is all incredibly exciting. I feel like we've only scratched the surface of what's possible with AI agents and agentic workflows. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this deep dive?
Just this. We're witnessing the dawn of a new era in computing. An era where AI is no longer just a passive tool, but an active collaborator capable of reasoning, learning, and acting in increasingly sophisticated ways. And as these technologies continue to evolve, it's crucial that we engage in thoughtful and informed discussions about their impact on society and how we can harness their power for the benefit of humanity. Final takeaways.
Okay, so for those of you just joining us or maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed by all the information, let's recap some of the key insights from our deep dive.
Right. We started by defining what we mean by AI agents and agentic workflows, highlighting the difference between the intelligent entity itself and the process it follows to achieve goals.
Right, we talked about how an AI agent is like the chef and the agentic workflow is like the recipe.
Exactly. And we then explored the role of deep learning frameworks like TensorFlow and PyTorch. Remember, those provide the foundation for building the AI models, the brains that power these agents.
And then we moved up a level to the agentic frameworks themselves, the things that take those powerful AI models and turn them into functional agentic systems that can operate in the real world.
We had a chance to look at both the commercial offerings from the tech giants and the vibrant world of open source solutions. We saw how companies like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon are building platforms and tools to make agent AI more accessible to businesses.
And we explored some fascinating open source frameworks like AutoGPT, Pedantic AI, and Crew-A, each offering its own approach to building and managing AI agents.
We talked about the importance of choosing the right framework for the job, considering factors like architecture, control mechanisms, memory management, and debugging capabilities.
And of course, we had to consider the very real-world issue of cost, both with open source and commercial options.
But beyond the technical details, what's really fascinating is the potential impact of agentic AI on our lives. We're already seeing how these agents can automate tasks, streamline workflows, and enhance decision-making.
And as these agents become more sophisticated with better memory, learning capabilities, and the ability to process information from multiple sources, the possibilities are truly mind-boggling.
That's it for our exploration of AI agents and agentic frameworks. We hope you found it informative and thought-provoking. Please like and subscribe to the channel to be notified of the future Linkvity's deep dives. Until next time, keep diving deep.